Welcome to the channel Darkness in the Night. Tonight, I'll tell you the very first story. A story about an old house perched on a hill in Dalat, where the fog never lifts, and where I, Min Kang, lived through the most terrifying days of my life. I was a painter, or to be more exact, just a guy doing freelance sketches to make ends meet. People loved pictures of Dalat's scenery. I preferred quiet, still things. I chose to rent a wooden house isolated on a pine-covered hill, about 10 kilometers from the city center. The road snaked upward through thick, year-round mist. Only the sound of the wind whispering in the forest and insects chirping at night kept me company. The elderly landlord spoke to me in a low voice. "You'll be staying there alone, are you sure?" I gave a faint smile. "Yes, sir, I'm used to living alone." He stared at me for a long moment, as if he had something else to say but held it back. "Well, that house has been empty for a long time. If you hear anything, don't mind it." I just laughed it off, thinking he was worried I'd complain about the house being old. Only later did I realize, his words weren't ordinary advice. The house sat tucked deep among the pines, wooden walls rotting, moss creeping over the tiled roof, windows warped by dampness. When I opened the door, the smell of mildew and old dust hit me hard. In the corner were a few leftover items, a broken wicker chair, a stringless guitar, and especially a painting covered with a silver, dusty cloth. I didn't uncover it right away. I simply cleaned up and placed my easel near the window, the one spot where daylight fell best. That first night, I lit an oil lamp. The electricity in the house flickered on and off like someone taking their last breath. I sat sketching the patch of forest outside, fog rolling down like a white sea. The later it got, the colder the wind became. Every now and then, the floorboards creaked as if someone were walking across them. I told myself it was mice, or the planks contracting in the cold. But then, a different sound. A very faint whisper, as if coming from inside the walls. "It's so cold here." My hand froze. I lifted my head. The lamp sputtered, its flame dimming. I held my breath and listened. Nothing. Only the wind outside. I chuckled nervously to myself. Must have misheard. Then bent back to my drawing, though my heart was pounding like a drum. The second night, it all happened again. The house stayed gloomy no matter how bright the sun was. The thick fog never dispersed. I began to feel someone was watching me each time I sat to paint. One evening, while rinsing my brushes, I glanced into the water in the basin. In the murky reflection, a different face appeared behind me, pale, long black hair covering half of it. I whipped around. Behind me was only the old wooden wall, pitch dark. I inhaled sharply and dropped to the floor. Just hallucinations, only hallucinations. But as soon as I said it, footsteps echoed above, slow and heavy across the attic. Who's up there? No answer. The steps stopped. Silence. I grabbed the oil lamp, my hand trembling, and climbed the stairs. The attic held only a few wooden crates draped in cobwebs. As my light swept across a dark corner, it landed on a framed canvas propped against the wall, smothered in dust. The cloth over it had rotted. A slight tug and it fell away. Slowly, I peeled the cloth back. The lamplight revealed a young woman. She wore white, hair falling long, her face gentle but her eyes hollow, no pupils. Just two dark, empty sockets. A chill shot through me, my heart raced. Yet I couldn't look away. It felt as though that lifeless gaze was pulling me in. Suddenly a gust whistled through the crack of the door. The lamp went out. Everything plunged into darkness. Fumbling with matches, my hands shook so badly I dropped them several times. When the flame finally caught, I realized the painting had moved. It now lay at my feet, though moments before it had been leaning on the wall. I carried it downstairs and set it in a corner. For some reason, I couldn't throw it away. There was something in those empty eyes that made me both afraid and strangely sympathetic. That night I lay on the old wooden bed, unable to sleep. Rain pattered softly on the roof, wind lashing the cracks like someone sobbing. I pulled the blanket up, staring at the ceiling. Then, in the darkness, a voice whispered right beside my ear. You've seen me now, haven't you? I bolted upright, my heart ready to explode. No one there. But the painting in the corner was tilted, as if someone had just touched it. I edged closer, lamp raised. The girl in the painting seemed to be smiling faintly. I rushed out to the porch, breathing deep. Cold mist wrapped around me, seeping into my skin. The pine forest was pitch black, wind hissing like a sigh. In the fog, a white shape stood motionless between the trees, long hair over its face, clothes rippling. I blinked, and it was gone. No way. I hurried back inside, locking the door tight, yet the whisper followed. Stay with me. I slammed my palm against the wall and shouted. Stop it, I'm not afraid of you. My voice echoed through the house, then died. The house fell silent, leaving only the sound of my ragged breathing. I sank to the floor, cold sweat down my back. When I glanced at the painting again, my blood froze. In the background there was now a tiny figure of a man sitting and painting. The figure looked exactly like me. Asterisk. The next morning I woke up late. Asterisk. I had barely slept the night before. Pale light seeped through the old curtain, falling across the painting in the corner. The girl inside was the same, only now I felt those black eyes following every step I took. I tried to reassure myself. You're just obsessed. Kang, snap out of it. I put on some soft music, brewed coffee. The aroma was rich, yet in the air lingered another smell, faint, musty, like damp wood long shut away. I opened the door to breathe. The fog was still thick, the pines blurred. Far off, a hunched woman carrying vegetables passed by. I called out, "Good morning, ma'am." She turned, eyes wary. "You're staying in that house?" "Yes, I'm renting it for a few months." "Fine, stay if you must. But don't stay long, and don't open the door at night. You hear?" Before I could ask more, she disappeared into the fog. Her unfinished words chilled me. Don't open the door at night. Why did everyone say such strange things? That afternoon, I tried to finish my painting, but my hands trembled. The brush kept straying. The more I painted, the darker the forest became on the canvas, pines curling like monstrous hands. And within the mist a pale figure began to show, faint, white. I dropped the brush and slumped down. What the hell is happening to me? The whisper returned, this time clearer, right by my ear. I'm here. I jumped up, scanning the room. Who's there? Show yourself. Silence. Then, from the left wall, knock, 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 like someone rapping from inside. I pressed my ear to it. Weak breathing, then a broken voice. Help me? I staggered back, cold sweat down my spine. Grabbing a hammer, I pried at the panel where the sound came. Inside was only darkness, dust, cobwebs, but when I shone the light, streaks like dried blood clung to the wood, brown and black. I yanked my hand away, heart pounding. No, it's just mold, it's just mold. But that night the wall began to moan, long and low, as if someone imprisoned was groaning. I hid under the blanket but still heard it. Then, right by my ear, a whisper. Don't leave me. I sat up, voice cracking. Who are you? What do you want from me? No answer, only rain lashing the windows. I lit the oil lamp, sweeping it around the room. The painting had fallen to the floor, its frame split. In the light I saw a new streak on the canvas, deep red like blood spreading. My hands shook. Impossible, I hadn't painted anything new. Morning brought clearer skies. I carried the painting to the porch, meaning to burn it, but strangely, the fire wouldn't catch. Even with oil splashed along the frame, the flame kept snuffing out. I stood frozen. A cold gust swept through, carrying a faint voice. Don't leave me. I hurled the painting down and walked straight into the woods. Heading for town, I needed someone to talk to. The little cafe at the foot of the hill was still open. I ordered a black coffee. The owner recognized me and smiled. Oh, You're staying in that house up there? Yes, guess everyone knows that place? Of course, no one's dared rent it for years. It belonged to Mr. Try and his daughter. Both disappeared, they searched but never found them. They say on that last night there was music. Crying. Since then, whoever goes in gets scared off. What was his daughter's name? I think, Huyen. I froze. Huyen. That name, last night I'd heard it in my dream. The girl had called to me, using that name. I pressed. Is there anyone else who knows about it? Why ask? Even if you do, no one will tell. You'd better leave. Don't stir up the past in that place. Some things shouldn't be dug up. I downed the bitter coffee, choking on it. As I got up to leave, the owner called after me. Hey, tonight the fog's heavy. Don't go out, you hear? Dusk fell quickly. I returned to the house, mind tangled. The painting still lay sprawled on the porch. I bent to pick it up, but as I reached down, a freezing hand clamped my wrist. I screamed, falling back. Only the trees swaying, wind howling at my ears. I looked around, no one. Yet on my wrist a faint purple handprint marked where something had gripped me. I stumbled inside, bolting the door, heart hammering against my skull. Calm down, Kang, just the wind. Just hallucinations. I sat at the table, took up a brush to distract myself. But the more I painted, the dizzier I became. Before my eyes, the canvas no longer showed pine forest but a dark room with a girl standing in the middle. Hair covering her face, both arms outstretched as if inviting me. Paint me. The voice came from right behind me. I spun around, no one. Yet on the canvas, the brush was moving by itself, strokes dragging as though someone held my hand. I dropped the brush, stood, shouting hoarsely. What do you want from me? The female voice whispered. I just want to see the light. Then the walls trembled, softly but insistently. From within, a furious knocking. Knock, 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 faster. Harder. I covered my ears but it drilled into my head. Suddenly a plank burst loose, falling at my feet. Inside the cavity, a strip of white cloth wrapped around something. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Beneath the cloth, a human hand. Shriveled, fingers clenched stiff. I threw it aside, collapsing to the floor, cold sweeping over me. From the darkness, the girl's voice rose, clear. I've been here, all these years. Why won't you open the door for me? I crawled backward, my spine hitting the wall. Eyes locked on the hand. It lay there, yet its fingers twitched, trembling as if alive, one by one, slowly curling and uncurling, reaching toward me. I screamed. Go away. Wind roared through the house. The oil lamp blew out. The window flung open, curtains whipping. In the dark I saw a faint figure standing beside the painting. Long hair, white dress, eyes like two black holes. She looked at me, lips moving. I just want you to keep painting. I pressed against the wall, heart about to burst. You're Huyen, aren't you? What do you want? Her voice answered, gentle but chilling. I don't want anything, I just want you to stay. I bolted for the door, fumbling the latch, but as I opened it, it slammed shut, lock snapping tight from the outside. I pounded on it wildly. Open up. Who locked the door? Behind me, slow footsteps approached. The wooden floor groaned. Cold breath slid down the back of my neck. A whisper right at my ear. Don't run anymore? The door slammed shut behind me, locked tight as if someone held it closed. Asterisk. I pounded on it over and over, the sound echoing through the dark house. No one answered, only the rain drummed on the roof, heavy and drawn out like sobbing. I turned around. The dim oil lamp flickered on the painting in the middle of the room. The girl inside wasn't standing still anymore. Her head tilted, hair falling across half her face, lips curling faintly. I swallowed hard, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. Who are you? The voice came, soft as a breeze but ice cold. You've already said my name. Why do you still ask? I stepped back and bumped into the mirror by the door. The The glass rattled. In its reflection were two people, me, and a white figure standing right behind me. I spun around, no one there. But when I looked into the mirror again, she was still there, clearer now. Long hair, skin pale as wax, eyes black and bottomless. She leaned slightly, looking at me through the glass, lips moving. "Do you remember me?" I trembled. "I don't know who you are, stay away. You once painted me, once promised to stay with me." "No, I've never met you." Her voice shifted into a choked sob. I covered my ears and backed away. But in the mirror her arms stretched out, slipping through the glass like water. I screamed, stumbling until I fell to the floor. The mirror shattered into shards. A cold, white hand slid out from a piece of glass, crawling slowly across the wooden floor. I crawled backward, pressing against the wall, cold wrapped around me, the smell of damp and fog filling the room. Her whisper came. "I've waited so long for you." The oil lamp went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I fumbled for my lighter, but my hand touched something soft. Freezing, I jerked back. A drop of cold water landed on my neck. Then a voice, very near. "Don't be afraid, it's only me." Shaking, I flicked the lighter. The tiny flame lit up her face, right in front of me. Eyes black as pits, skin white as wax. She was less than a hand's breadth away. I fell backward, bolted for the door. I slammed into it with my shoulder, the lock burst. I ran outside, fog pouring in like smoke. I tore down the hill, slipping on the wet earth. The pine forest below was pitch black, the wind howling in waves. After several yards, I looked back. On the porch stood the white figure, watching me, her long hair streaming in the mist. I shouted, "Stay away from me." But the wind swallowed my voice. I kept running down the dirt path, then fell face first. When I looked up, a cracked old mirror lay in the fog right in front of me. Somehow, her face appeared in it, hazy yet clear, staring straight at me. "Where can you run?" I hurled the mirror away and ran again. But at the bend in the road, my heart stopped. Before me stood the same old house, its door wide open, the oil lamp inside still flickering. I crouched, unable to believe my eyes. No, I just ran down the hill. A cold gust swept by. From inside the house came the familiar voice, gentle but chilling. "Come back, there's still room for you here." I screamed, threw stones and sticks, but the more I threw, the clearer the soft laughter inside became. "You've hurt me." The door slowly closed, the lamp's light snuffed out. Everything went dark except for the pines whispering and the wind whistling through the gorge. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I opened my eyes, dawn had broken. Weak sunlight touched the hilltop, the fog lifting. I was lying right at the doorway, frozen, clothes soaked through. The painting still leaned against the wall inside. But one thing made my blood run cold. Now the painting had two people. A girl in white, and a man sitting and painting. His face blurred but his posture exactly like mine. I stood there, rooted, afraid to step inside, my eyes burned, my heart heavy. Behind me, a voice whispered softly, "See, now I'm not alone anymore." I spun around, no one there. But in the early sunlight, her face seemed to appear in the mist, a pale smile on her lips. She lifted a finger to her mouth, signaling silence, then melted into the fog, as if she had never existed. That morning Min Kang went down to town. His face was pale, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. He sat in a small cafe by Zan Hong Lake, fingers clenched around a cup of coffee gone cold. People around him chatted and laughed, but he sat still, staring off toward the misty pine forest. An old man who knew the place walked over. "You're looking weak these days. Can't sleep at night?" "Yeah, maybe it's the cold." Not many stay on that hill. They say that house isn't clean." Min Kang stayed silent. The old man bent lower, speaking softer. "Years ago, a girl went missing there. That house belonged to her and her parents. After she died, The two went mad and vanished too. Folks whisper, she's never really left. Min Kang's hands clenched, his voice rough. That girl, do you remember her name? I think, Huyen, Miss Huyen something. Beautiful girl. Gentle too. Such a pity. They say she was betrayed by her lover. Then hanged herself in that very room. Kang's hand trembled. Coffee spilled across the table. He froze. In his head, last night's voice echoed. You once promised to stay with me. That afternoon he climbed back up the hill. He didn't know why, fear clawed at him. But his feet still mounted each mossy, wet stone step. The house was silent. The door stood ajar, as if waiting. He stepped inside. The smell of damp and mold wrapped around him. On the table the unfinished painting remained. Looking closer, something had changed. The colors had faded, yet the figure was clearer than yesterday. The girl in the painting was smiling. Min Kang's breath came hard. He whispered, "What do you want from me?" No reply. Only wind hissing through the cracks, carrying a far-off whisper. "You're back?" He startled, spinning around. No one. But the voice didn't fade, it drifted from the pine forest. Stretched out in the mist. Night fell fast. Drizzle hung in the air. Min Kang sat by the window, staring out at the trees. In the fog a faint light flickered. Then, he heard singing. A girl's voice, thin, trembling, like an echo from far away. Musical note, "Don't leave me," musical note. Musical note, "I'm so cold," musical note. The song drifted nearer, then far, like someone calling in a dream. He stood, stepped onto the porch, rain slapping his face. The sound still lured him, pulling him toward the pines. "Huyen, is that you?" No answer, only wind tearing through the branches. He walked deeper into the forest, mud slick underfoot. The farther he went, the clearer the song, as if at his ear. Musical note, "I'm still waiting," musical note. Suddenly he saw ahead a figure in white, long hair, back turned. A dim glow from an oil lamp in her hand. Her hair hung wet, swaying lightly in the mist. His chest tightened. He stepped closer. "Huyen, is it really you?" She turned her head. Face chalk white, eyes sunken with no pupils. Black tears streaming down her cheeks. Her voice broke into the fog. "I told you, don't leave me." Min Kang screamed and bolted. But the path was gone. Fog thickened. The forest twisted into a maze. Behind him came wet footsteps. A faint, broken giggle. He tripped, his hand landing on something cold and slimy. Looking down, a torn burial shroud, caked with earth. Beneath it, half a woman's face decayed, mouth gaping in a smile. Kang scrambled back, slipped into a pit. Rain poured. Above him the white figure leaned over, her voice echoing, "Needles of ice. You can't escape, I'm here." He blacked out. When he woke, daylight had returned. He lay on the ground, soaked. The house still stood on the hill, as if he'd never left. But something made his skin crawl. At his feet lay a small wooden comb, carved with the name, Huyen. He picked it up, a few thin black hairs still clung to it. Hands trembling, he slipped it into his pocket, eyes lifting to the hilltop, where the silent house sat in the mist. Last night's song still echoed faintly somewhere. Like an invitation, like a reminder. The door between two worlds had never really closed. That afternoon, Dalat was cold and mournful. The clouds hung low, mist began to blanket the hills in white. Min Kang stood silently before the house, gripping the small comb he had found in the forest. The chill of it seeped into his skin, making his heartbeat stumble. He muttered to himself, "Was this yours? What do you want me to know?" No answer. Only the wind circling the roof, whistling like a long, tired sigh. He stepped inside. The room was unnaturally still. The painting still hung on the wall. But the girl inside no longer smiled. Her lips were closed, her eyes turned toward the corner, where the worktable stood. He moved closer and noticed an old envelope lying neatly on the desk. Paper yellowed, covered in dust. When he opened it, faded words bled through. Asterisk, for Kang, the one I once loved. His hands shook. The ink had blurred, but he could still read. Asterisk, if one day you return to this house, it means I'm still here. I don't blame you, I just haven't been able to leave. I miss it all, the sound of your brush, the scent of paint, and the way you looked at me through the frame. If you still care, keep the comb, it's a part of me. Min Kang froze, breath shallow, heart pounding. He whispered hoarsely. She knows my name, but how? I've never met her. That night, it rained. Rain hammered the tin roof. Electricity flickering weakly. Kang sat by the table, eyes fixed on the wooden comb. He picked up his brush and began sketching Huyen's face, hoping for answers. But the more he painted, the clearer her image grew. Each stroke, each line, guided by something unseen. When he finally stopped, the portrait was complete. The girl appeared beautiful, gentle, yet her eyes carried endless sorrow. And around her neck, a dark bruise shaped like a rope burn. He stumbled back, face drained. The oil lamp dimmed, smoke curling into his eyes. From behind him came the faint sound of footsteps. Then a voice whispered, close behind. Do you still remember how I used to brush my hair? He turned sharply, gasping. Huyen, what do you want from me? I don't want anything, I just don't want you to forget me. A pale figure slowly appeared, standing a few feet away. Her hair hung wet over her shoulders, drops falling one by one onto the floor. She stretched out a hand, soft as mist. Give me back the comb, you've held it long enough. He clutched it tightly, trembling. No, if I give it to you, you'll take me with you. Are you afraid? You weren't afraid of me before? Her voice softened, filled with sorrow. You painted me, you promised to stay, then you left. I waited until I couldn't breathe anymore. Kang backed away, eyes wet. I never knew you. I'm not the man you think I am. No, you are. No matter how many lives pass, I'd still recognize those eyes. The lamp flickered out. The air thickened with darkness. The wind stopped, only their breathing remained. She stepped closer, her tone quiet, pleading. Give it back, so I can finally go. His hand shook as he stared at the comb. A strange heaviness pressed on his chest, fear, pity, something else. He lifted it, placing it gently on the table. But as soon as he let go, the comb rose by itself, spinning slowly in the air. A faint white light spread around it. The girl smiled. Her form faded into smoke, leaving only her voice lingering. Thank you, I'm leaving now. The lamp flared back to life. Kang sat motionless. The comb lay still on the table, no longer glowing. Everything was silent, unnervingly so. He inhaled deeply. So, it's over? But then, from the corner of the room, came the soft sound of a comb brushing through hair. Slow, steady strokes. Then a faint humming rose from the upper floor. Musical note, don't leave me. My love, musical note. He stood up abruptly, face drained of color. The comb was still on the table. But in the mirror behind him, the reflection showed a girl sitting there, brushing her hair, smiling faintly, with hollow, empty eyes. The next morning, Min Kang awoke in the cold house. On the table, the wooden comb still lay there, but half its teeth were broken. As if bitten through. Wind drifted through the window, carrying the faint scent of wild sunflowers and damp moss. He looked around. Nothing seemed different, yet the feeling of being watched was sharper than ever. He whispered, Huyen, if you truly want peace, tell me what happened. No answer. But when he turned back to his sketchbook, he saw a new line written across the open page, ink still wet. Asterisk, go down to the well, and you'll see the truth. A chill ran through him. Behind the house there really was an old well, covered by a rotten wooden board. He walked slowly outside, The smell of damp earth and rust thickened in the air. When he pried the board aside, the wood screeched, a sound that sliced down his spine. At the bottom was black water, still and deep as ink. He held his lamp over the edge, the surface rippled. For a moment, his reflection looked back, but it wasn't him. It was another man, dressed in a white shirt, with a rope around his neck. Kang screamed and stumbled back. Then, from the well, came a hoarse, muffled singing. Musical note, don't leave me, my love, musical note. Musical note, I'm here, down here, musical note. He trembled, sinking to the ground, sweat cold on his back. What do you want me to do, Huyen? Her voice whispered by his ear. Look closely, see who killed me. Rain began to fall. Fog melted into the gray curtain of water. He crawled back to the room, gasping, head throbbing. Then, in a feverish dream, he saw the past unfold. The house looked the same, but bright, full of laughter. A young woman in white sat by the window, brushing her hair with the wooden comb, humming softly. Behind her stood a man, with Kang's face. They smiled at each other, tenderly. She said, "Promise you'll stay with me forever." "Forever," he replied. Then the light darkened. Thunder rolled across the sky. The man rose, face cold. "I had to go. You promised. It's over, Huyen. I have a wife. I can't stay." The girl fell to her knees, tears streaming. "You lied. You said you'd marry me. Forget it. Pretend we never met." He turned and walked away, leaving her in the shadows. Her sobs mixed with the wind. She grabbed the comb, raking her arm until it bled, then ran upstairs. The rope hung waiting, swaying gently in the rafters. Her broken voice whispered, "You left, so I'll follow." The white figure dropped. The chair clattered. Everything went silent. Min Kang jolted awake, gasping. The night was still dark, the rain still falling. On the table, the comb gleamed faintly red. He whispered, "So, she died because she was betrayed. But who was he? Why does he look like me?" From the painting on the wall, a dim light flickered. The girl's eyes opened, her voice a whisper. You were him." He froze. "No, I didn't kill you. You've forgotten, but debts unpaid never rest." Wind burst through the house, blowing out the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. Lightning flashed, and for an instant, Huyen's face in the painting smiled, twisted and cold. "Now it's my turn to keep the promise forever by your side." The sound of a comb brushing hair rose again, slow and steady. Her painted hair seemed to move, drifting as if alive. On the wall, two shadows, a man and a woman, merged into one. Fading, dissolving into the mist beyond the window. Morning came to Dalat, damp and chilling. Kang sat by the table, his face pale, eyes hollow as a ghost's. The house was silent. Only the old clock ticked, tick, tick, like a heart counting down. He looked at the painting on the wall. The girl inside had changed. No longer eerie, her smile now soft, almost tender. He rasped out, "Huyen, what do you want from me now?" A whisper floated like wind. "I don't want anything, I only want you to remember our promise." He trembled, leaning back in his chair. "I'm not that man. You are. Flesh may change, but the soul remains. You promised to paint me forever." His hand moved on its own, reaching for the brush. As if guided, he began to paint. With each stroke, the room grew darker, colder. Outside, the fog thickened until the forest disappeared. The lamplight shimmered on his face, sweat beading, lips tight, eyes vacant. Paint mixed with blood from his fingertips, unnoticed. When the painting neared completion, the light died. Huyen's voice trembled, almost in tears. "Now, you belong to me." He looked up. The painting no longer showed just her. Beside the girl sat a man, painting, his face identical to Min Kang's. He stumbled back, gasping. "No, impossible. You promised to paint me for eternity. The canvas rippled like water. Huyen's hand reached out through the paint, white fingers pressing against his chest, icy cold. He tried to move, but couldn't. That hand pulled him closer, deeper. Laughter and crying swirled together around the room, 100 voices whispering as one. He screamed, "Let me go, I owe you nothing. You owe a promise." The lamp flickered back on. But the room was empty. Only the painting remained on the wall. The girl smiled softly, and beside her, Min Kang sat holding a brush, eyes hollow, painting in silence. Outside, fog curled thick around the hill, denser than ever. A faint song drifted from within the mist, weak but unending. Musical note, stay with me, forever? Musical note. The next morning, townsfolk found the house with its door open. No one was inside. Only a fresh painting still wet, a man and a woman sitting by the window. Sunlight streaming in, warm and peaceful. No one knew who painted it. But in the corner, a shaky signature read, KH**. The morning mist hadn't lifted yet. A woman named Lan, who owned a small art shop in town, drove her car up the hill to find Min Kang. She had promised him she'd come to collect a few paintings to display for the tourists. The dirt road was slick and uneven, gravel crunching under the tires. The air was cold, heavy, and carried the smell of rotting pine needles and damp earth. Lan wrapped her scarf tighter around her neck and muttered to herself, "Goodness, the fog's thick today. He hasn't come down for days, probably locked himself in painting again." Through the haze, the wooden house appeared, tall and still, like a giant shadow. The door was ajar, wind whistling softly through the cracks. Lan stepped inside, her voice trembling. "Mr. Kang, are you here?" No answer. Only the sigh of wind slipping through the gaps in the walls. The house was cold, the fire long dead, and the faint smell of oil paint hung in the air. On the table, the brushes were dry and stiff, the palette stained with streaks of color. Lan looked up. A painting hung in the center of the wall. She froze. "Oh my God, this one's beautiful, but strange." In the painting, a woman in white sat by a window, sunlight spilling in, her hair falling down her shoulders. Beside her was a man painting, but his face was blurred. Only his dark, deep eyes visible. Lan reached out, the paint was still wet. The moment her finger touched it, a chill spread through her skin like ice. She jerked back, heart pounding. Suddenly, a faint rustle behind her. She spun around, heart nearly stopping. No one there. Only a chair swaying gently, creaking back and forth. Lan swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. Probably just a rat, or a cat. She turned toward the door, but froze. Right behind her came the sound of breathing. "Lan," she gasped. That voice, it was Min Kang's. But faint, distant, as if echoing from beneath the floor. "Kang, where are you? Don't touch the painting." What did you say?" The wind howled. The painting on the wall trembled. The girl inside tilted her head, lips parting, a faint white mist escaping her mouth. Lan stumbled backward, eyes wide, legs weak. "Dear God, what is this?" "Don't be afraid," Kang's voice whispered again, "she hasn't left yet." Lan clutched her head and screamed. "Where are you?" "In the painting?" The lights flickered. The man in the painting came into focus, looking straight out. His lips trembling as if begging for help. Beside him, Huyen turned her head and smiled. Her skin was chalk white, her eyes hollow. She placed her hand gently on the man's shoulder, then slowly turned her gaze outward, directly at Lan. Lan shrieked, stumbling toward the door. But it wouldn't open. She pounded on it, screaming, "Somebody help me, please." Outside, the wind rose, carrying a thin, mocking laugh. "Stay, finish the painting for him?" The room began to sway. The canvas quivered, the sound of fabric stretching, rip, rip, like something crawling within it. Lan saw the girl's pale hand pushing through the frame, long fingers reaching the edge of the wood. She let out one final scream. Then everything went black. That evening, villagers found Lan's car parked by the road, door open, headlights still on. Inside the house was a new painting. Now there were 3 figures: the woman in white, the painter, and another woman with her hair tied back, face frozen in terror, eyes wide as if crying for help. At the bottom corner, scrawled in dried blood, were the words, "She saw it, asterisk." That night, a light drizzle fell over Dalat. Mist crept through the pine branches like pale white smoke. At the foot of the hill, people whispered, "Lan is missing." Her car was still there, her phone left in the glove box, but no one had seen her since. 2 young men from the village, Tuan and Loy, decided to go up to the wooden house. "Let's check it out. You think she just ran off in the middle of the night? I heard that place is haunted. Man, don't mess around. Come on, we'll just look and go." The hill path was silent, every step crunching dry pine needles. Fog wrapped around their legs, biting cold. They held flashlights, the weak beams barely cutting through the mist. The house appeared ahead, still, looming, asleep. The door was slightly open. The wind whistled through, moaning low. Tuan took a breath, called softly, "Anyone here, Miss Lan?" No reply. Only a cold breath drifting out from inside, thick as smoke. They shined their lights around. Everything was coated in a thin layer of dust, the sharp scent of oil paint still lingering. On the wall hung a large canvas. Both men froze. In the painting were 3 figures, a woman in white, a man, and another woman who looked exactly like Lan. Tuan whispered, voice shaking, "Dear God, look at that. It's her. It's Lan. Don't freak me out. Maybe Kang just painted it for fun." Loy reached out, brushing the wooden frame. The paint was still wet. A red drop slid down onto his hand, sticky. He lifted it to his nose, then went pale. "Blood, it's blood." Before Tuan could react, a scraping noise came from the corner of the room, like furniture being dragged. They turned their lights. Nothing there. Only their shadows, moving opposite the flashlight's direction. Tuan stammered, "Loy, turn off the light." "What? Why?" "Just do it." The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, faintly, the painting began to glow, a sickly bluish light, like moonlight on black water. Inside, the man lifted his head, looking outward, eyes dark and glistening as if wet with tears. A sigh came from right behind them. "Help me?" Tuan screamed, dropped the flashlight, and it rolled across the floor with a clatter. Both bolted for the door, but it wouldn't budge. Outside, the wind still hissed through the cracks. They pounded and shouted until their throats burned. Behind them, the painting quivered, the frame split slightly, and from inside, thick black paint began to ooze out. Loy's voice trembled. "I heard, it called my name." "Stop it. I'm serious, listen." A whisper slid into their minds, faint but distinct. "Don't leave him, don't leave us." Tuan covered his ears, backing into the wall. A cold hand rested on his shoulder. He spun around, no one. But the chill seeped through his clothes, sinking into his skin. Loy broke and ran, rushing toward the painting, gripping the frame to pull it down. The moment his fingers touched it, a hand from inside the canvas shot out, seizing his wrist and yanking hard. He screamed. Tuan lunged forward to grab him, but Loy's arm bent unnaturally, then vanished straight into the painting, dragging him in. Tuan cried out, "Loy, give him back to me." He struck the frame, but the glass was smooth and ice cold. Inside the painting, 4 figures now stood. He collapsed, sobbing. The wind outside shifted, slipping through the roof, sounding like someone softly laughing. Then the canvas began to pulse, like it was breathing, exhaling waves of cold through the room. Tuan trembled, backing away, unable to look away. Inside the painting, Huyen smiled faintly, lifted her face, and whispered, "Just one more." The next morning, people came to the hill again. But the house stood empty. No Tuan, no Loy, no signs of struggle. Only the painting remained, now showing 5 figures. In the bottom corner, written in dried blood, were the words, "The door is closing." Mid-October in Dalat was bone-chilling. Fog blanketed the hills, swallowing the lonely wooden house at the top. Rumors spread across town. Anyone who went up that hill never came back. Among the curious onlookers was a young woman standing silently outside a small cafe. Her gaze fixed on the misty ridge. Her name was Mai, the younger sister of Min Kang. She hadn't heard from her brother in nearly 2 weeks. His phone was dead, her letters unanswered. She came to Dalat hoping to find him, but everyone she asked just shook their heads. "No one dares go there, miss." Those who did, none of them returned. Mai whispered, voice trembling, "He's my brother. I have to try." The road up the hill was desolate, lined with drooping pine branches that whispered faintly in the wind. Each step echoed softly, blending into the rustle of leaves, and yet, she felt as if someone was walking beside her. Mai pulled her coat tighter, shivering. "Is someone following me?" No reply. Only a faint breeze brushing her ear, carrying a whisper. "Mai." She spun around. No one there. Only the mist, swirling gently into the vague shape of a figure. She took a deep breath and walked faster. Through the fog, the old house emerged. The door was half shut, silent. Inside, pure darkness. Mai knocked. "Kang, brother, are you there?" The door creaked open. Damp, stale air drifted out, thick with the scent of paint and rotting wood. She stepped inside, sweeping her flashlight across the room. On the wall hung a large painting, covered by a thin sheet of cloth. She hesitated, then pulled it down. Her eyes widened. Inside the painting were 5 figures, a woman in white, 2 young men, another woman, and her brother, Min Kang. Her hands trembled. "My God, Kang." The paint was still wet, colors bleeding softly, under the flashlight. The eyes of the figures seemed to glisten, alive. She reached out to touch it, but a sound echoed from upstairs. Thump, thump, slow, heavy footsteps. "Kang, is that you?" The steps stopped. Silence. Then a trembling whisper floated down. "Mai, don't come up." She froze. "Where are you? What's happening? Don't look at the painting, don't trust her." The voice cut off, replaced by a faint laugh, breathy as wind. A woman's whisper. "Too late, Mai, you came too late." Mai swung her light around the room, hands shaking. Nothing. But in the painting, the woman in white had lifted her head. Her lips curved, a wet, knowing smile. Her whisper drifted from the canvas. "He stayed with me, and soon, you won't be lonely either." Mai screamed, backing against the wall, clutching her flashlight. "Get away, who are you?" "The one your brother promised to paint forever. Now it's your turn, Mai." The painting trembled. Cold air poured from it, swirling around her ankles. On the table, a cloth slipped off another frame, revealing an unfinished portrait. Only half the face was painted, her own. Mai dropped the flashlight, bolting toward the door. But as her hand gripped the handle, another hand pressed over hers, icy cold. Min Kang's voice whispered right beside her ear. "Go, before she sees you." She spun around, but he wasn't there. Only his shadow on the wall, quivering as though blown by wind. The shadow's lips moved silently. "Help me." Fog spilled through the cracks in the door, thick and white. Behind her, the painting began to pulse, breathing softly, voices whispering from every corner. "Stay, paint with us?" Mai screamed, kicked the door open, and stumbled outside into the wet ground. Behind her, the house flickered to life, lights glowing by themselves, illuminating the painting inside. Now, a 6th figure had appeared, A woman standing in the mist. Her face unfinished. Dash dash dash. As dawn broke, the fog began to thin. From afar, villagers saw Mai kneeling before the house, trembling, clutching her head in tears. In her hands was a torn piece of canvas, smeared with blood and paint, showing half a woman's face. She sobbed. "Brother, is that really you, in the painting?" The wind swept through the pines, carrying a faint, distant reply. "Yes, it's me." 3 days after that horrifying night, Mai returned to the hill. She walked through the rain, clutching a candle in her trembling hand, dark circles under her sleepless eyes. No one dared to follow. People whispered that she'd lost her mind, that the house devoured every soul that entered. But Mai only said softly, "My brother's still in there. I have to bring him home." The night was cold, a fine mist falling from the sky. The wooden house stood damp and stained, its door barely closed. She pushed it open, the hinges groaned like a dying breath. Inside, the air was cold and thick with the smell of paint and mold. On the worktable, a new canvas had been stretched tight. In the middle of the room stood a paintbrush still dipped in color, its tip glistening wet, as if someone had just been painting moments ago. Mai stepped carefully inside. The candle flame quivered. "Kang, it's me. I'm here now. Where are you?" No answer. Only a faint swish, swish, asterisk from upstairs. The sound of a brush moving across canvas. She froze, staring up the dark staircase. "Who's there?" The brushing continued, steady, rhythmic, punctuated by a whisper so soft she held her breath to hear it. A man's voice, hoarse and weary. "Not done yet, must finish." Her voice broke. "That's you, isn't it, Kang?" The brush stopped. Silence. The air grew heavy, pressing against her chest. Step by step, she climbed the stairs, candlelight trembling across the wall, where streaks of dried paint looked disturbingly like blood. At the top, the door to the studio was half closed. A faint glow flickered inside, like the last breath of a dying oil lamp. She pushed it open, the candlelight spilled across the easel, and froze. On the canvas was an unfinished portrait, a gaunt man with tangled hair, sunken eyes, and skin pale as wax. It was her brother's face. Beside it, the paintbrush moved on its own, slowly tracing color across the canvas. No hand guided it. Only a blurred shadow on the wall, his shadow, painting. Mai screamed. "Stop it, please, don't paint anymore." The painting shuddered, her brother's voice echoed weakly. "Don't come in, she doesn't want you to see." The curtain behind her swelled. A white figure stood by the window, hair hanging loose, clothes soaked with rain. A woman's voice moaned, low and hollow, like it came from underground. "Why did you return? He belongs to me now." Mai staggered back, trembling. "Who are you? What did you do to him?" "I did nothing. He chose to stay. Everyone who enters here finishes what's left undone." "You're lying." The candle blew out. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the painting glowed faintly, pulsing, breathing. Then the girl from the painting, the same one who had once smiled at Mai, stepped out of the frame. Each step she took left red paint footprints across the floor. "Mai, your brother's nearly finished his last piece. All that's missing is one final face. Yours." Mai screamed, yanked a paint cloth to cover her face, and bolted for the door. But when she touched the handle, it was smooth like glass. No exit. Behind her, the painting's light grew brighter, consuming the room. Her brother's voice broke through, faint, desperate. "Don't let her paint you. Burn the painting, now." Mai grabbed the oil can and splashed it across the floor. She struck a match. Flames roared to life, casting their twin shadows, brother and sister, against the wall. The woman in white shrieked, a piercing, otherworldly cry. "No!" The canvas cracked open, spilling black smoke like shattered souls. The brush fell to the ground with a metallic clink. Then silence. Mai collapsed, unconscious amid the smoke and burning paint. By dawn, villagers found the house charred and hollow, but the frame on the wall was untouched. The canvas was empty. No faces, no figures. Amid the ashes, they discovered a half-burnt paintbrush, its tip still wet with red paint. Mai was nowhere to be found. Only a scorched piece of cloth remained, half-burned, with faint red letters painted across it. "Thank you, I'm free now." Asterisk. 3 days after the fire. No one dared to go near the hill. Those who passed by swore they heard the wind whisper, a rough, hoarse voice carried within it. Asterisk. Stop painting, please. Stop. People said it was the trapped soul of asterisk Min Kang, caught between ashes and unfinished strokes. Then, one misty morning, someone saw smoke rising again from the burned remains. But it wasn't smoke, it was fog, thick and swirling upward as if hiding something. Old Nam La, the caretaker of the cemetery below the hill, was the first to climb up. Bent and slow, he carried an oil lantern, muttering a prayer. "If anyone's still here, show yourself, so I can help your spirit find peace." He stepped carefully through the scorched ruins, past blackened walls and a lone easel standing in the ashes. On the easel, the canvas was charred around the edges, but in the center a young woman's face had taken shape. The upper half was sharp, the lower half blurred, as if someone had stopped mid-stroke. The paint was still wet. "Good Lord," he whispered, backing away as his lantern shook in his hand. "Who's still painting in this house?" He turned to leave, but a soft female voice spoke behind him. "Did you see him?" He spun around. Through the fog stood a girl in an old raincoat, hair plastered to her face, skin streaked with soot. Her eyes were hollow, white as glass. Her voice rasped. "I'm looking for my brother, Min Kang." Nam's knees weakened. Who are you?" "I'm Mai. I came to bring him home." The moment she said it, the canvas behind her began to tremble. The faint swish of a brush filled the air, as though someone was completing the final lines. Nam stared in horror as a second face appeared beside the first, Mai's face. The girl in the raincoat smiled faintly. "At last, it's finished." The painting flared with blinding light. A column of black smoke shot upward, vanishing into the mist. The brush clattered to the ground. When Nam regained his senses, the girl was gone. Only a completed portrait remained, two figures standing together among ghostly pine trees. Min Kang faced the distance, his gaze lost beyond the frame. Beside him, the woman turned outward, staring directly at the viewer, eyes hollow, endless. That night, villagers at the base of the hill heard it again. The faint sound of painting. Even though the house was gone, the swish of a brush echoed through the fog. An old man murmured, "He's finished it, but he won't put the brush down." "How do you know?" another asked. The old man sighed. "Souls like that, once they bind themselves to their art, there's no way back." 3 months later, tourists from Saigon visited Dalat and wandered into an antique art shop in the market. The shopkeeper proudly showed them a large painting he'd just bought from locals. A misty pine forest, serene and gray, and at the center, two figures standing side by side. At first glance it looked peaceful. But the longer they stared, the more unsettling it became, the eyes, the fog, the faint smear of crimson among the greens. One of them asked, "Who painted this?" The shopkeeper chuckled mysteriously. "They say, it painted itself. Every time it rains, the colors grow darker." They laughed, thinking it was a ghost story. That night, back at their hotel, one girl woke with a start. Across from her, the painting glistened, wet again. Drops of red paint trickled down the canvas like blood. And from the mist beyond the window came a whisper. "Asterisk. Don't look any longer, or I'll have to paint one more face." She screamed. The power went out. When the lights flickered back on, the painting was blank. 2 faint smudges of color where the figures had once been. The next morning, a half-burnt paintbrush was found on the windowsill. On the wall, written in red paint, were the words, "The final portrait is complete, asterisk." Asterisk. It was the last month of the year. Dalat was so cold that each breath turned into smoke. White mist draped the dirt road leading up the pine-covered hill. Through the haze, a man in a brown wool coat walked quietly, a sketch bag in one hand, his eyes fixed on the hilltop now fenced off with wire. His name was High Asterisk, a travel magazine reporter and an amateur painter. He'd heard the stories about Asterisk, the self-painting canvas, Asterisk and Asterisk, the haunted house in the mist, Asterisk, and had come to investigate for an article. Locals only shook their heads. "Don't go up there. Anyone who gets mixed up with that house never comes back whole." "I'm just taking photos, uncle. Don't worry. I don't believe in ghosts." An old vendor by the roadside stared hard at him. "Believe it or not, that's your choice. But remember this, don't touch the brush. You hear? Dash dash dash." The pine hill was silent. Only half a charred wall remained of the wooden house, its lone easel leaning crooked in the frozen dirt. High set up his tripod, snapped a few shots, and pulled out his notebook. Wind hissed through the cracks of the burnt frame, carrying a sound that almost resembled a soft laugh. He shivered, looking up. Through the mist, a white-clad figure stood by the easel. He blinked, thinking he was seeing things. The shape vanished. But when he walked closer, at the foot of the frame lay a half-burnt brush. Its bristles were stained a deep, dried red. He crouched down, muttering to himself. Must have belonged to some old painter, might be a good keepsake. The moment his fingers touched the handle, an icy chill shot up his spine. The air grew heavy, pressing down on him. On the charred canvas, dried patches of paint began to ooze fresh color, red, gray, slowly forming the blur of a human face. A voice spoke right beside his ear. "You're the last one to paint, aren't you?" He jerked upright, spinning around. No one there. Only the wind through the pines, sounding like footsteps in dry needles. Trying to steady himself, High slipped the brush into his bag and walked away. He'd barely gone 100 meters when a cold hand brushed his shoulder. He spun again, nothing. The mist was so thick he couldn't see the ground. From far away came the faint swish, swish, asterisk of a brush on canvas. It grew closer. Close enough for him to hear the painter's breathing. His voice trembled. "Who's there? Anyone on the hill?" No answer. Only a rasping female whisper, rising from deep beneath the earth. "Don't let the mist cover your eyes, or you'll see what you're not meant to see." Dash dash dash. That night, High stayed at a small inn at the foot of the hill. When he opened his bag, the brush lay still, its bristles now stiff and dry. He took out his sketchpad, thinking he'd test a few strokes of the landscape. But the moment he dragged the brush across the paper, the lines bled and spread on their own, shaping a girl with long hair. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken, empty of pupils. He dropped the brush, heart hammering. The lamp flickered once, then went out. From the dark corner, the same female voice whispered again. "Thank you, at last, someone to continue?" He flicked on his flashlight. On the walls, the sketches he'd hung earlier had changed. Misty pines, the wooden house, the fog, and in the corner of the last drawing, a man painting. The man's face was unmistakable. The second night, light rain fell, and the mist thickened like milk. In a creaky old inn room, High sat before his easel, the oil lamp flickering. On the canvas, the girl with long hair still lingered, her smile faint, almost alive. He muttered under his breath. "Impossible, I didn't paint her, yet she keeps appearing." The sound of a brush, swish, swish, rose again, though he hadn't touched the canvas. Each stroke seemed to draw itself, bleeding into the shape of another face, the face of Mai, the girl who had vanished in the burned house. His hands trembled as he gripped the handle of the brush. "Who's making me paint you?" A woman's whisper answered. "No one, it's you. You want to see me, too." He jumped up and hurled the brush to the floor, but it bounced back, landing right at the center of the table. The lamp sputtered out, leaving only a faint moonlight at the window. In the mirror opposite him, he saw another man sitting there, holding a brush, continuing to paint. That face was his own, but pale as wax, lips dark blue. The man in the mirror lifted his head and smiled a crooked smile. "Don't stop, you have to finish the last painting." Hai staggered back, cold sweat running down his spine. He shouted, his voice cracking. "No, I won't paint anymore." The mirror shattered. Shards fell to the floor, each fragment reflecting forests of pine, the burned house, and faces streaked with red paint. Yet the brushstrokes didn't stop. From the canvas, a white hand reached out, seized the brush, and kept painting. A woman's voice giggled softly. "See, the mist is painting for you now." Hai collapsed. His vision blurred, his skull throbbed. Then the room faded, and he was no longer inside. He stood in the middle of the pine forest. Wind hissed around him. All across the ground stood dozens of canvases, each one painted with real people who seemed to breathe. A familiar voice came from behind. "You came at the right time, the last painter." He turned. Huyen, the girl from the first portrait, stood there. Her face was cold but her eyes burned. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice shaking. "The first one to hold this brush. And you're the last." He clenched his jaw. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing, just finish the final painting, so I can return where I belong." "And if I refuse? Then you'll take my place." She placed her hand lightly on his forehead. Instantly, a flood of visions crashed into him. Min Kang sitting in the wooden house. Mai burning inside the frame. Faces screaming amid fire. Melting into red paint across canvas. He screamed, trying to pull away, but couldn't. Her voice softened, almost pleading. "Paint, so I can disappear, so all of us can rest." He looked down at the brush on the ground. Paint seeped out on its own, pooling into the shape of a human hand. Hai closed his eyes, drew a deep breath, and whispered, "Fine, I'll paint, but I'll do it my way." He picked up the brush and raised it to the canvas. Each stroke swept across, but instead of painting the girl, he painted the house burning, the pine forest collapsing, and the mist dissolving. Huyen screamed, "No, you can't erase me." The wind howled. All the forest canvases trembled, splitting open, red light spilling like blood. He kept painting, his hand shaking violently but never stopping. With every stroke, the mist thinned, and Huyen's face faded, dissolving into smoke. Before vanishing, she whispered, "You'll regret this, by erasing me. You've left yourself in the painting." Morning. People found the burned house again. In the ashes stood a new painting. On it, a man was painting with the misty pine forest behind him. His face was calm, his eyes stared outward, dark and deep. Looking closer, they saw a small, scrawled note at the bottom corner. "The last painter, **. No one knew where Hai had gone. But every night, when fog cloaked the hill, the sound came again, swish, swish, as if someone were still painting in the dark. Morning broke over Dalat after a night of rain. The mist hung thin as cigarette smoke, sliding between the black trunks of pine trees. At the foot of the hill, villagers huddled in groups. An old woman trembled as she spoke. "Late last night I heard a brush scraping, clear as day, then someone laughing, but the voice wasn't human." Another drew his collar tight. "Must be trouble at the burned house again." A braver youth went up the path. On the barren slope, only the black foundation of the house remained. In the center stood a tall painting of the house itself burning in the mist. The longer he stared, the clearer the faces inside became. He exhaled sharply. My God, it's Hai. News spread fast. People whispered that Hai had been swallowed into the painting. Just like Min Kang years before. Someone swore they saw a thin man in a dark coat carrying a brush walk past the graveyard without saying a word. That afternoon, a young woman came to the hill. Her eyes were ringed with exhaustion, a crumpled letter in her hand. Her name was Lan, Hai's cousin. She stood silently before the painting, gently touching the wooden frame. From somewhere came a familiar voice. Don't touch it, Lan. She gasped. Who just said that? No one. Only wind and swirling mist, gathering into the shape of a man with tangled hair and vacant eyes. It's me, Hai. Lan burst into tears. You're alive? His voice faded like smoke. I'm not as I was. I'm trapped, but I stopped the curse. Stopped? What do you mean? The brush. I burned it, but everyone who's painted with it leaves part of their soul in the picture. I can't escape. Lan pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. I'll find a way to save you. I swear. Hai smiled sadly. No need, just listen. If you ever see someone with a black wood brush tipped with silver, don't let them paint. Whatever they say, stop them. Her voice cracked. And you'll disappear? He looked out over the pines where the last daylight pierced the mist, casting a half-real glow across his face. Maybe, but if someday you see a face in the dew on your window, don't be afraid. It's only me, watching. Then his form dissolved like smoke. The painting before her changed, no longer blackened, but now veiled in a thin white mist like a living breath. Night fell. Lan sat in Hai's rented room. The work table was still there, the oil lamp flickering. On the easel stood a blank canvas. Beside it, a charred wooden box sat with its lid slightly open. She bit her lip, hesitating. It's probably nothing, just a quick look. She flipped the lid. Inside lay an old brush, black ebony handle, silver tip gleaming. Her face drained of color. No, he said he burned it. A gust of wind roared through, snuffing out the lamp. In the dark, a woman's voice whispered, soft and chilling. Your turn. Lan screamed. The room shook. The blank canvas toppled against the table. From the floor, a white light flared, shaping the figure of a long-haired girl, beautiful face, but eyes hollow. Who are you? I'm the one who was never finished. The brush lifted from the box, floating in midair. Its tip touched the blank canvas and began to draw, stroke by stroke. Lan backed into a corner, clutching her chest, stammering. Don't paint. But nothing stopped. The sound of swish, swish, asterisk filled the room. On the canvas, Lan's own face slowly emerged. Her tears fell, splashing onto the floor, mingling with paint. The woman's whisper returned, almost tender. Each generation, someone must paint, so the mist won't die. Asterisk. The next morning, they found Hai's rented room completely empty. Only a new painting remained, a girl sitting by the window, gazing out at the pine forest. The sky was gray, the mist thick, yet if you looked closely, behind the girl's back was the faint outline of a man holding a brush. Half hidden, half seen. At the bottom of the canvas, a line was scrawled in uneven paint. Shadow in the night, never truly ends, asterisk. The house on the hill is nothing but ashes now. Yet every night, villagers still hear the asterisk swish, swish, asterisk of a brush in the mist. Some say it's Hai. Others whisper it's Lan's turn. And you, if one day you pass through Dalat, and the fog curls through the pines, and you hear a voice murmuring near your ear, remember Hai's final warning. Never touch the silver brush, asterisk. Thank you for listening until the very end. If you enjoyed this tale, please give it a like and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps Shadow in the Night create more haunting stories for you. If you have any questions or notice any details we might have missed, feel free to leave a comment below. We truly appreciate your time. And Shadow in the Night * will see you again in our next story. Disclaimer. The content in this video is a * work of horror fiction, produced purely for * entertainment * to bring an eerie experience to the audience. We do * not * promote superstition or encourage any dangerous actions mentioned in the story. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is purely coincidental. Thank you for supporting the channel, Shadow in the Night.